It all began during a warm summer afternoon at a family barbecue. The scent of grilled food lingered in the air, and laughter echoed across the backyard. I had only been dating Mark for a few months, and this was my first time meeting his extended family. Nervous but excited, I tried my best to make a good impression, chatting with relatives and indulging in delicious homemade dishes. Amidst the cheerful chaos, I first laid eyes on Ethan. He stood near the grill, flipping burgers with an ease that suggested he was no stranger to cooking. Tall and effortlessly handsome, he had an air of quiet confidence that set him apart. I watched from a distance, unsure of whether to approach him or not. Our initial interactions were limited to brief hellos and polite smiles. As the evening progressed, I found myself engaged in conversations with various family members. I felt a growing sense of belonging, surrounded by warmth and camaraderie. Mark was by my side, introducing me to everyone and ensuring I felt comfortable. Yet my attention kept drifting back to Ethan, who seemed to be equally enigmatic and approachable. Later in the evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the atmosphere became more relaxed, I found myself standing near the drinks table, trying to decide on a beverage. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Ethan approaching. He flashed a friendly smile and struck up a conversation about the assortment of drinks available. We talked about everything from our favorite types of soda to the best way to make a classic lemonade. What struck me most about our conversation was Ethan's genuine interest in getting to know me. He asked about my hobbies, my job, and my thoughts on various topics. His questions were thoughtful, and his presence was reassuring, making me feel as though we had known each other for far longer than a few hours. When the conversation shifted towards books, we discovered a shared love for mystery novels and began recommending titles to each other. As the night wore on, I found myself stealing glances at Ethan whenever I could. There was a magnetic pull, an unspoken connection that left me both exhilarated and confused. Despite the festivities continuing around us, our interactions felt like a world of their own, a sanctuary of genuine conversation in the midst of the celebratory chaos. Little did I know that this encounter was merely the beginning, the opening chapter of a story that would challenge my emotions, loyalty, and understanding of love. The weeks following the family barbecue were a blur of anticipation and curiosity. The memory of my conversation with Ethan lingered in my mind, replaying like a favorite song. I found myself looking forward to the next family gathering, eager to reconnect and delve deeper into our conversations. The opportunity came at a cousin's birthday party held at a local park. The sun was shining, and the air was filled with the sound of laughter and the aroma of freshly baked treats. I arrived with Mark, feeling a mixture of excitement and nerves. As we mingled with relatives, I couldn't help but scan the crowd for a glimpse of Ethan. Before long, our paths crossed again. This time he was engrossed in a lively discussion about films with a group of cousins. Intrigued, I approached the circle, and our eyes met briefly before he welcomed me into the conversation. As we chatted about our favorite movies, it became evident that Ethan possessed an impressive depth of knowledge about various genres and directors. At one point, the conversation veered towards travel, a topic that had always fascinated me. Ethan shared stories of his backpacking adventures through Europe and Asia, painting vivid pictures with his words. His enthusiasm was infectious, and I found myself hanging on to every detail he shared. It was during this discussion that I discovered our shared desire to explore far-off places and immerse ourselves in different cultures. As the day turned into evening, Ethan and I gravitated towards a quieter corner of the park, away from the boisterous games and festivities. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, moving from movies and travel to deeper subjects like life goals and personal philosophies. It was as if we had stumbled upon a kindred spirit, someone who saw the world through a similar lens. Eventually, the party began to wind down, and Ethan and I reluctantly rejoined the larger group. We exchanged promises to keep in touch and recommendations for movies to watch and books to read. As we said our goodbyes, I couldn't help but feel a pang of longing, wondering when our paths would cross again. In the days that followed, I found myself replaying our conversations in my mind. The connection I felt with Ethan was undeniable. a rare and unexpected bond that I had never experienced before. But with this connection came a growing sense of confusion and guilt as my feelings for him seemed to conflict with my loyalty to Mark. The days after the cousin's birthday party were marked by a swirl of emotions. I was caught in a complex web of feelings, struggling to make sense of the unspoken connection I had developed with Ethan. Our interactions lingered in my mind, the depth of our conversations and the shared interests resonating with me on a profound level. As I spent more time with Mark, guilt gnawed at me. Every time I looked into his eyes, I felt like I was hiding something, withholding a secret that could shatter the foundation of our relationship. I questioned the nature of my feelings for Ethan. Was it just an infatuation? A passing attraction? Or was it something deeper? The family gatherings continued, and Ethan and I maintained a friendly rapport, often engaging in conversations that ranged from light-hearted banter to more philosophical debates. His presence had become a constant in my thoughts, and I found myself eagerly awaiting each event, craving those stolen moments of connection. One evening, during a cozy bonfire at Mark's family cabin, the unspoken tension between Ethan and me reached its peak. As we sat side by side, gazing into the flickering flames, our shoulders occasionally brushed against each other. The air was charged with a mix of electricity and uncertainty. It was as though we were both tiptoeing around a truth that refused to stay hidden. I stole a glance at Ethan, finding his gaze fixed on the fire, his expression contemplative. Sensing my gaze, he turned to meet my eyes, and in that moment, time seemed to stand still. There was a silent understanding that passed between us, a wordless acknowledgement of the emotions we were both grappling with. It was in that gaze that I felt the pull of something undeniable, something that extended beyond mere attraction, but the weight of guilt intensified. Mark's affection was evident, his care for me evident in the way he looked at me and the gestures of love he showered upon me. I was torn between the loyalty I owed him and the enigmatic force drawing me towards his brother. The unspoken connection I shared with Ethan was a paradox that left me both exhilarated and tormented. The unspoken connection with Ethan continued to grow stronger, its presence a constant undercurrent in my thoughts. It was as though I existed in two worlds, one where I was Mark's devoted girlfriend and another where I was drawn towards his enigmatic brother with an intensity I couldn't comprehend. The inner conflict escalated, reaching a point where it became impossible to ignore. I found myself spending hours lost in contemplation, questioning my feelings and grappling with the guilt that consumed me. I knew that I needed to confront these emotions before they spiraled out of control. One evening, after a particularly engaging conversation with Ethan at a family gathering, I excused myself and retreated to a quiet corner. The stars above glimmered, casting a soft glow on the surroundings. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. It was time to sort out my thoughts and confront the truth within me. I sat there, the cool breeze ruffling my hair as memories of my journey with Mark flooded my mind. The bond we had built, the shared experiences, the laughter and the support, they were all real and meaningful. Yet my heart couldn't ignore the growing connection I felt with Ethan, a connection that transcended words. Tears welled up in my eyes as I faced the truth. I was in love with Ethan. The realization hit me like a tidal wave, leaving me breathless and vulnerable. But alongside the rush of emotion came the heavy weight of guilt. How could I have fallen for my boyfriend's brother? How could I have let it go this far? I grappled with these conflicting emotions, feeling as though I was standing on the edge of a precipice. The love I felt for Mark was genuine, but the pull towards Ethan was equally undeniable. The battle within me was fierce, tearing me apart as I tried to make sense of it all. As I sat there under the stars, I knew that I couldn't keep these feelings hidden any longer. I needed to confront the truth, to face the consequences of my emotions head on. It was time to make a choice that had the potential to change everything. With a heavy heart, I wiped away my tears and resolved to have an honest conversation with Mark to lay bare the conflicting emotions that had taken over my heart. The decision to confront my feelings weighed heavily on me as I navigated the days that followed. I knew that I needed to have an honest conversation with Mark to reveal the truth about the emotions that had been consuming me. It was a conversation I dreaded, one that had the potential to shatter the relationship we had built. One evening, as we sat on the couch in Mark's living room, I took a deep breath and turned to face him. His warm gaze met mine, and a small smile tugged at his lips. The sight of his kindness and affection only deepened the ache within me. "Mark," I began, my voice trembling slightly, "there's something I need to talk to you about." His expression shifted from curiosity to concern, and he nodded, giving me his full attention. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, struggling to find the right words to convey the whirlwind of emotions that had enveloped me. "I've been feeling conflicted," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I've been struggling with my emotions, and I can't keep it hidden any longer." Mark's brows furrowed, his concern deepening. "Conflicted about what, exactly?" I hesitated, grappling with the weight of my admission. "It's about your brother, Ethan. Our interactions, our conversations, they've stirred up something in me that I can't ignore." His expression shifted from confusion to realization, and a heavy silence settled between us. I could see the mix of emotions that played across his features: surprise, hurt, and a deep sadness. It was as though my confession had left a crack in the foundation of trust we had built. "Are you saying you have feelings for Ethan?" Mark's voice was strained, his eyes searching mine for the truth. Tears welled up in my eyes as I nodded, unable to meet his gaze. "Yes, I've realized that my feelings for Ethan have grown beyond friendship." The room was filled with an uncomfortable silence, broken only by the sound of my soft sobs. Mark's silence was agonizing, his emotions hidden behind a carefully composed expression. After what felt like an eternity, he finally spoke, his voice a mix of pain and understanding. "I appreciate your honesty. This is a lot to process." The weight of guilt intensified as I saw the hurt in his eyes. The realization that my confession had wounded him left me feeling like I had betrayed not only him, but the trust we had shared. We spent the rest of the evening talking, tears and emotions flowing freely as we navigated the difficult conversation. After the heart-to-heart conversation with Mark, a palpable shift occurred in our relationship. We both agreed that we needed some space to process our emotions and thoughts. It was a painful decision, but a necessary one to allow each of us the room to come to terms with the new reality. The days that followed were marked by a sense of emptiness. The absence of our usual interactions, the shared laughter, and the comfort of our relationship left a void that was impossible to ignore. The guilt I felt for causing Mark pain weighed heavily on me, and I found myself grappling with a mixture of sorrow and longing. I channeled my emotions into my work and hobbies, seeking distractions to fill the emptiness, but no matter how busy I kept myself, my thoughts inevitably returned to Ethan. His face would appear in my mind, accompanied by memories of our conversations and the unspoken connection we shared. Ethan and I maintained a respectful distance, acknowledging the complexity of the situation we found ourselves in. Our interactions at family gatherings became more formal, our conversations kept to a minimum in the presence of others. But there were moments, stolen glances and fleeting smiles, that spoke volumes of the emotions we were both grappling with. One evening, as I sat by the window, watching the rain tap gently against the glass, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had led me to this point. I realized that my emotions were far more intricate than I had initially thought. The love I felt for Mark was still there, but the allure of the connection with Ethan remained a constant temptation. The desires of my heart were like conflicting currents, pulling me in different directions. It was a struggle to reconcile my loyalty to Mark with the growing feelings I had for his brother. I questioned whether it was possible to untangle my emotions and find a way to move forward without causing more pain. As the weeks turned into months, the tension between Ethan and me reached a breaking point. The unspoken emotions that had been simmering beneath the surface could no longer be contained. It was during a quiet moment at a family gathering that the truth spilled out, forever altering the course of our intertwined lives. The event was a small dinner at Mark's parents' house, a cozy gathering with just a few close family members. The atmosphere was relaxed and the conversations flowed naturally. But as the evening progressed and the group began to disperse, Ethan and I found ourselves alone in the dimly lit living room. The silence between us was heavy, pregnant with unspoken words. It was as though the air crackled with the tension that had built up over months of restraint. Then, with a heavy sigh, Ethan finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "We can't keep pretending," he said, his gaze fixed on the floor. "These feelings, they're too strong to ignore." My heart pounded in my chest, and I nodded in agreement, my voice catching in my throat. "I know, it's been tearing me apart." Ethan finally looked up, his eyes meeting mine in a gaze that was both intense and vulnerable. "I've been grappling with guilt every day. I care about Mark, but I can't deny how I feel about you." Tears welled up in my eyes as the truth spilled out, raw and unfiltered. "I feel the same way. It's like an unbreakable bond between us." As we spoke, the emotions that had been bottled up for so long flowed freely. We shared our struggles, our fears, and our hopes, laying bare the depths of our feelings for each other. It was a revelation that held both relief and weight as we faced the reality of what had been building between us. In that moment, we were two souls laid bare, navigating the complexities of emotions that defied easy categorization. It was a reckoning that forced us to confront the consequences of our choices and the impact they would have on everyone involved. After our candid conversation, we were left with a renewed understanding of the challenges that lay ahead. We knew that pursuing a relationship would come with its own set of complications, impacting not just Mark, but the entire family dynamic. The road we had chosen was paved with uncertainty, but there was a shared resolve to navigate it with honesty and empathy. With the truth revealed between Ethan and me, we stood at the threshold of an uncertain future. The path ahead was filled with challenges, and we were acutely aware of the potential repercussions our feelings could have on the people we cared about. The days that followed were a delicate balance between maintaining our connection and respecting the boundaries that needed to be upheld. Our interactions were measured, our conversations carefully crafted to avoid arousing suspicion. It was as though we were dancing on a tightrope, trying to find stability in the midst of a whirlwind of emotions. The news of our feelings eventually reached Mark, and the aftermath was painful. The hurt in his eyes was a constant reminder of the choices we had made and the pain we had caused. It was a stark realization of the consequences of our actions and the difficult decisions we were forced to confront. Mark needed time to heal, and the strain on the family dynamic was palpable. Family gatherings were tinged with tension as we navigated the delicate balance of being near each other without causing further pain. The love we once shared with Mark had transformed into a different kind of connection, one marked by understanding, empathy, and the hope for healing. As Ethan and I continued to navigate our evolving relationship, we encountered a myriad of emotions. There were moments of doubt and guilt as we questioned whether our feelings were worth the upheaval they had caused. But there were also moments of undeniable connection as we explored the depth of our emotions and the possibilities of a shared future. Our journey wasn't without its challenges, but it was also a journey of growth and self-discovery. We confronted our vulnerabilities, our capacity for love, and the complexities of human relationships. Our connection with each other and the choices we made forced us to confront our own strengths and weaknesses, reshaping our understanding of love and commitment. While the road ahead remained uncertain, we held onto the hope that with time, understanding, and open communication, healing could occur. We acknowledged that the path we had chosen was unconventional, but it was a path we were willing to navigate with integrity and compassion.